Hi, I'm Patricia Allingham Carlson, and this is the second video in a series for children and beginners. We are drawing the human face, and in this video we're beginning shading, noses, adding a hairline in hair, and increasing realism. I encourage you to add your own photos and pictures of people that you want to draw, because looking at real pictures of people will be a big help to you. Now, on to the drawing. Here we are at the human face, lesson 2. Last lesson we drew out the features, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and we put the features on the head with placement, starting with the eyes about halfway down the face, the human head. Today we're going to look at noses. Now, eyes seem to have some lines in them, and mouths certainly seem to have some lines in them, like the line between the lips. But I know that people's noses are not all outlines. They instead have shadows and shades that form the contours and make them look like they're sticking out of the face. In order to do that, we need to get rid of the lines and put in some shadows instead. So I'll start with this nose here and make the line thicker all around the nose. Again, noses are not made of lines. They're made of shadows and forms and shapes. The part of the nose that sticks out the most on most people is right here on the tip. We call this the bulb of the nose. It's almost like a little ball or a big ball sitting on the edge, and it sticks out the furthest. The part that goes in the most is underneath this ball, where your nose goes back into your face. So I'm shading with thicker lines to make it look like shadows around the nose. And I'm not pressing really hard. I want the pencil to be sort of gray, not really black. Not real hard and black, because that is much too hard to deal with. You really can't make the lines get softer if it's hard and black. So already, to me, that looks a little more like a real nose. I know that in most people, the nose goes in a little bit, right between the eyes. And that's called the bridge of your nose. So what I'm doing is gently rubbing these thick lines to soften the lines and make them look more like shadows. My finger got dirty. I don't care. I'm softening this line by rubbing it, the line around the nostril, and the line around the ball or bulb of the nose. This is actually called shading. If you shade in the wrong spot and you want it to stick out, you simply erase. This shows a nose, to my way of thinking, far better than the lines do. Now I'm making the nostrils, the nose holes darker, and I'm putting more shadows underneath the nose where it goes back into the face. I'm also making it darker here around the nostrils. You know that little dent I told you about under the nose that sort of forms the top lip? You can do the same kind of shadowing right there, because it's not actually a line either, but more of a shadow. Actually, the more shading you do by thickening the lines and rubbing them out with your finger, the more realistic your picture is going to look. Now let's come on over to this face and take it from somebody who does not appear to have anything on their forehead and no neck and a line nose and start to make it look more like a person. I'm going to start by shadowing the nose. I'm making the line thicker on the sides of the nose. Do you notice I'm holding the pencil sideways? That gives me a thicker piece of shading material. It allows me to make it softer looking too. If I use the tip of the pencil, the lines will be harder. They won't blend out as easily. I'm putting a shadow here around the ball of the nose, a shadow here around the ball of the nose, and a light shadow here. And some people have this shadow and some people don't. You'll have to look at the person that you're drawing. I'm putting a light shadow here between the eyes where the nose goes in toward the face. And then I'm taking my finger and rubbing these lines. And if I rub too much, again, I'm taking my eraser and making the nose the lightest on the tip, where it sticks out the most. And where it goes back in again, I'm putting more shadows. I'm putting shadows where the mouth dips in. The eyes actually sit in sockets in the head, so I can put a little shadow in there and a little shadow in here. And now the person starts to look a little bit more like a person, except their eyes are white. Most people do not have white eyes. So I'm going to color in the eye and give it a little bit of gray color. You could make the eyes darker, or you can make the eyes lighter, depending on your person and what color their eyes are. I'm going to color in that black iris, but I'm going to leave a little spot of light, because when you look at people's eyes, they often have some light spots, which is sort of a shine. I'm also going to put a darker line along where the eyelashes are, because that will make the eye stand out a little bit more like a real eye. I can put in some eyelashes too. Next thing I can do is I can color in the lips very lightly. And I can tell you that usually the top lip looks darker and the bottom lip looks lighter. The reason for this is because your top lip curves inward towards your center of your mouth, and your bottom lip curves outward and catches more light. It's the same color skin, it's just it looks darker on the top. So I color in the mouth lightly with some gray, maybe do a little bit of rubbing around the edges, and a person starts to look even more like a person. Up here, let's take a look at this head. Where does the person's hairline start? If the hairline starts low, the person's hair might come down from this point. If it starts high, it might come down from this point. We're all different. This person, I think, will have their hair starting right about here. It will curve around the sides of the face, and let's say they have their hair parted down the middle. I can just simply now you can give your person any hairstyle that you want, of course. Man or woman, child, whatever you choose to do. You can also bring some bangs down into the person's forehead if you wish. person has longer hair, it could be standing out behind the ears, or it could even cover the ears. Of course, that's all hairstyle and what people choose to do and how they choose to wear their hair. And now the person begins to look more real, and we're going to see the person does not have a neck. Where does your neck come in? It's different for different people. Somebody with a wide neck will have a bigger neck here. Some people with a very thin neck could have a much thinner neck here. Generally, I try to find where the jawbone is. This is where your mouth opens and closes at the hinge. And I bring in the neck right about at that point. The neck is fairly long and it will go off the paper. And then your person will actually have a neck. The last thing I'd like to try to do today, after making this person into a person, is to put a little bit of shadowing underneath the chin, because our chin sticks out and puts a shadow on the neck. Again, I'm using the side of my pencil. And putting in a little bit of gray underneath that chin, and maybe on the sides of the neck as well. And there's a person with some shadows, with the nose that is shaded instead of a line drawing, a shaded mouth, and some colored in eyes and some hair. So when you saw that the eyes went halfway down the head, this is what takes up the rest of your head. Your hair, or your skull, or your brains, whatever is up in here, whether the person has hair or they're bald, this is what is in the top section. Let's do this one more time, and instead we'll make this person into a man. To start, men often have a slightly larger chin and a slightly larger eyebrow area. So I'm going to take this person's face and give him a little bit more jaw, which is again where the mouth opens and shuts in this area inside the body, and just a little bit more longer chin. I'm going to erase this area here, and now we'll have a face that could be more likely to be a man's face. I'm going to start by shading out the nose area to get rid of the lines and make the nose out of shadows instead. Then I'm going to rub these lines gently to make them into shadows. I'm going to darken under the nose where it goes back against the face, and darken around the nostrils. I'm going to erase where I've shaded too much, and I'm going to add this bulb of the nose shadow a little bit around the full ball or bulb at the base of the nose, where it sticks out the most. I'm going to shadow a little bit around the eyes, and I'm going to color in the pupil, leaving a spot of light shining on each pupil. And I'm going to color in the iris a little bit. Next, I'm going to add a lash line of darkness. And you can add individual lashes for a man as well as a woman, or you can just leave this lash line as a darker area. I'm going to make his eyebrows a little heavier, darker. because this is something else that men will sometimes have, although women can have a heavy dark brow as well. I'm going to do a little bit of shading on his mouth. Coloring in his lips lightly and blending around by rubbing again. Again, if you overblend and you don't like how your shadow looks, you can erase it anytime you want. The last thing I'm going to do is give him some hair, and I decide where his hairline is going to be. If I want him to have some sideburns, or if I want him to have a shaved head in that area, whatever you want to do, it's your person, and you can give them any kind of hair design that you want. Playing around with the hair is fun. Sometimes you can add a mustache or a beard. You can give different hairstyles. You could do a mohawk. You could do a buzz. You could do whatever looks good to you. And last, I'm going to give him his neck. If this is his jaw, I'm going to come down right around where his jawline is and give him his neck. Last of all, I'm going to do that shadow that's under his chin, because his chin sticks out and casts a shadow onto his neck. And a little bit on the sides of his neck as well. And there is a man. And he certainly looks more realistic than the line drawing I did yesterday. Now I hope you have some fun with this too. Make any hairstyles you want, put on any kind of fashions you want. Try to do some blending and some shading and shadows. Color in the eyes, color in the hair if you wish. Make your person look any way you want. And have a good time. Talk to you next time. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. Please give it a like and a thumbs up and subscribe in the links below so you don't miss any lessons coming up. There are also links to the places where I buy my supplies from, including most of my scholastic supplies from blick.com. More links lead to my Facebook page and my blog on art and life. I'll see you next video.